Who am I? Why am I here? How then shall I live? These words were posted on Lori's bulletin board in the back of her classroom. They're questions she asked her students every year. They're goals. They're what she hoped she would be able to equip her students to answer about themselves, about their own lives and their own purpose on earth. These are big questions, and I think in many ways these were questions Lori must have asked herself on a daily basis. I think this because she so clearly lived her life as an intentional response to these questions, passionately and persistently finding the very best ways to fulfill her answers to them. Lori knew who she was. She was first and foremost a daughter of God, a follower of Jesus. She knew that needed to come first in her life, and as long as she made sure of this, she'd be able to be all of the other things she was, and she was a lot of things. Lori was a loving wife and an incredible mother. I know this because I watched her pour herself into the lives of her kids. I even watched her pour herself into the lives of the other people who were pouring themselves into the lives of her kids. I heard the way she spoke about her marriage, her husband, and the way she began to look forward to her next trip to camp with her family precisely at the moment she fastened her seatbelt for the ride home from the last trip to camp with her family. Lori was an incredible teacher, one who embraced every student she taught, no matter how easy or how hard that was. She loved her kids. She loved their joy and their hope. She loved shepherding them through shared pain and helping them discover their voices. She loved being the one who got to tell them, "You matter. I see you, I hear you, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made." She found the best in every one of her students, and she committed to cultivating the strengths of every single young person who was blessed enough to call Mrs. Johnson their teacher. Lori was a mama bear. She was the only one of our faculty who welcomed exclusively brand new students every single year. She made LCA those students' home, and she faithfully demonstrated how to exist at a place as unique as our own school community. Isn't it true? Every year she would tell her sixth graders, "Okay, this year you've got a free pass to me anytime. Whether I'm teaching a class or in a meeting, if you need something, I will pause for my sixth graders. You are what is most important to me," and she lived this out. She prepared her students to move up while simultaneously preparing their next mama bears to take them on. She made sure that each student was known and loved before they ever walked through Mrs. Beals and Mrs. Oliver's doors. No one who's ever been in Lori's sixth grade matriculated into seventh without their soul being seen and their strengths being celebrated. Lori paved the way for hundreds of students to successfully navigate the next tumultuous years in their lives. Lori was a reader. She believed that by reading and listening to stories, we'd learn to love our neighbors, especially those who were different than us, and especially those who needed our forgiveness and our mercy. She loved stories. And on Friday, when the sixth graders gathered to share their favorite things about their beloved teacher, one thing came up over and over again. No one can read a book quite like Mrs. Johnson. Lori was a learner. It's possible that Lori was the greatest teacher I've ever known, not just because of how she taught, but because of how she cared about learning. One of her favorite quotes was, "By caring to learn, we learn to care." Isn't that perfect? She believed that by taking the time to pursue new knowledge, that we would in turn begin to see the world more completely, and that would inevitably lead us to being better, more just, more forgiving. So she was always learning. We would spend many a Saturday morning texting blog articles back and forth, dreaming up the next big thing we could imagine becoming a part of our precious school. Lori was right smack in the middle of doing so many incredibly cool, innovative, cutting-edge things. The very prospect that we, her colleagues, have the responsibility to continue pursuing many of these things is daunting. But I know I speak for many, if not all of us, when I say that it will be a privilege. Lori was also a leader. She was the foundation and the vision behind our entire middle school. I've heard in the past few days her likened to a cornerstone, to the glue that held it all together. She was always the one to see the big picture, to predict where our good-meaning plans would fall short, and where in our plans there were opportunities to do something a little better. As a division head, Lori was always pushing our team to think bigger, to push ahead. She helped us see things we'd never have seen otherwise. We will miss her ambitious ideas, and can only hope that she's instilled enough of herself in us that we can honor her by being brave and bold with everything that's brought to the table. Lori worked tirelessly and graciously and served our school community in such a gigantic capacity that I expect we'll be uncovering things that Lori did that we took for granted for many years to come. Lori led others in such a genuine, rare, and incredible way. She never ran out of steam to pour into other people, and I still don't quite know how she did it. As more and more teachers gained the privilege of calling Lori their colleague, Lori's wings just continued to grow so she could fit everyone under them comfortably. Lori even found a way to invest herself in those who led her. Just the other day, James Talkington, our head of upper school, Lori's boss, reflected on how excited he'd been to have Lori lined up to observe his class in the coming weeks. That is a rare and beautiful, that sort of working relationship, and it requires, as part of its recipe, someone like Lori, who is always 100% fully focused on the shared mission we have to be the best educators we can be, so we can really, truly, and fully glorify God. For the privilege it's been to witness this, I am selfishly so grateful. Lori was my person at LCA. I am a better teacher, a better mother, wife, friend, and follower of Jesus just because I got to watch Lori be those things. She was my person, but she was also a lot of other people's person. Because Lori invested in every single person she met, even when it was hard. If I asked you guys all today, who of you felt as though you were mentored by Lori? I imagine an overwhelming number would raise your hands. And isn't it true that we're all better because we were able to witness Lori's life? We are better because we were able to watch her persistently pursue better teaching, because we heard her stand passionately for the marginalized time and time again, because we saw her love people deeply, graciously, and generously, because she never turned anyone away when they showed up at her door needing wisdom, and because she was a shining example of a life well led. Work hard, rest well, eat cake, and worship the Lord by doing all of these things wholeheartedly. Lori knew who she was, and she knew why she was here. She was here to follow Jesus and to lead people, big and small, in the act of caring to learn. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Who am I? Why am I here? How then shall I live? Lori knew, so now so do I.